All right, y'all, welcome back and happy Monday. It's time for day 9 of fall camp news, notes, and thoughts. Please like and subscribe to the channel. At the end of this video, we're also going to be talking about the current rankings or the preseason rankings for Tennessee, where we're at, and what are my thoughts on it. So starting off with the injuries, okay, I wanted to do this list a little bit differently today. I took all the players that would typically be in yellow off of this list. Those players will be practicing, but they're just going to be very, very limited with the contact. So just to let people know, hey, this team isn't in that bad of shape. I know that most people probably get that, but some people still, they see all those names and they start to get worried. I don't think that we have much of a reason to be worried about the injuries with this team. Now, looking at guys like Joshua Josephs and then Braylon Staley, they've missed a lot of time, so I'm not quite sure there. I think that they should be back by week 1. Okay, hopefully, fingers crossed. But outside of that, man, Tennessee's not in a bad spot with the injuries. With that being said, let's go on ahead and talk about the players that got to speak to the media today. And we did hear from Tennessee secondary. So Coach Nez, he did talk, and really, there was a whole lot of coach speak there. He talked about the versatility of Tennessee secondary. It looks and feels to me like he really does like that room, and rightfully so. I think that room is very, very deep and very talented. And then let's talk about Edrees Farooq, who should be probably one of Tennessee's starting safeties this year. He talked about special teams last year, which is mostly what he did. He said that that's going to help him with getting off blocks, and which is huge playing at safety, because getting into those run fits, you got to be able to get off blocks and things like that. He also talked about him and Kaleb Beasley working together and figuring things out as a team. I think that that's absolutely excellent. That's awesome. Everyone that we'll be talking about today, they all spoke about how close the secondary is. And then, he also talked about the game slowing down for him. So that is very, very positive news, because him being a newer safety, right, getting his first opportunity to actually start for us, I was kind of worried about, whoever the other safety next to Andre Turntime was going to be, but feels like he's very confident. So that's going to be the biggest thing. Kaleb Beasley, he said that he's a lot more locked in this year than he was last season, just because this season he knows that he's going to have to play. So he's going to be rotating in pretty much all the time, right? And I think that his coverage should look good. Really, just our safeties in general should be the best in coverage that we've seen since Coach Heupel's been here. Again, the secondary should be very, very talented, very, very good. And he also said that he's mostly playing at safety right now, but he's also still going at star and going at corner. So super versatile guy. Now, Colton Hood, he talked about being a leader and just, working hard, things like that. Also said that he sees himself as a lockdown corner. He wants to know who's the best pass catching threat for the other team. He wants to go guard them. That says a lot. That's how cornerback's mindset should be. Obviously, him coming from Coach Prime, he has really good fundamentals, and he is going to have that type of dog to him. But, I think that our coaching staff does a great job with our cornerbacks as well. And he also talked about that room being close. So with all of that being said, y'all, let's go ahead and talk about the secondary in practice today. So like we touched on, that room is getting healthier, okay? Ricky Gibson saw him back out there today, which is huge for me, because with the lower body deal as a cornerback, I was a little bit worried about, hey, when is he going to come back and actually start practicing? Great sign that he's back this early. That is outstanding news. He should be ready to go week 1 versus Syracuse. So probably going to be him and Colton Hood as our starting cornerbacks. Maybe it could also be J-Mac, who is still playing at star and playing at corner, but we'll probably rotate, mix and match, all that good stuff. And also Jamal McCoy, he was back out there doing even more work, feels like. He's getting more into the practice, getting in and out of breaks. Looks like he was probably over 75%, very close to full speed. Might have been even over that, looked good getting in and out of his breaks, excuse me. But I think that he's probably going to be back, I would say hopefully by that ETSU game. If he's back by that game, then that means that he will obviously play versus Georgia. But I think that he's got to be back by that game if he's going to play versus Georgia. But I think that he might be trending for that to happen. That is extremely positive, just because that secondary, super deep, super talented. And Boo, he had a full practice, so working at star. Not quite sure, is he back working with the ones, or is he with the twos, or is he with the threes? Have no idea. But last note here with Tennessee secondary is that Timothy Merritt, who P raved about yesterday, I think that he looks really good. So P said, man, he's really long, looks good, kind of like in his drills and all that. But P also sent me a picture of him earlier today, saying, just showing me that he's kind of starting to fill out, which is absolutely excellent. So he came up as a safety in spring. He played corner. And I think he's back playing safety now, but he's another just versatile piece. Tyler Redmond, Trey, all of those guys, Marcus Gorey. We've got a lot of prototype bodies, guys that can play in different spots. I think that our secondary is going to be great. Now let's talk about Tennessee's quarterbacks. So this is something that we can talk about publicly now, because we talked about it before on our Patreon, that it felt like really G-Mac has been the most consistent quarterback throughout fall camp. And the reason that we could talk about it publicly is because Jason Swain on the Josh and Swain show, he pretty much said the same thing. And I don't know if he was just talking about Tennessee scrimmage, which I think he did get to go to, or if he just means over the course of all of fall camp. But he did say, man, GMAC really looks like he's the most talented, looks like he might be the best at this point. But does it mean that GMAC is going to get the start? I don't necessarily think so. And we've touched on this previously too, that just because one player, especially playing a quarterback, looks the best and is operating better than the other two, doesn't mean that they're going to start. GMAC is a young guy. The coaching staff might be a little bit worried about him getting some different looks, which I'm not too worried about that personally, just because I think that he can pick it up mentally. Seems like he's a really smart kid. But also maybe they're looking at him physically and saying, we don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. And you don't want for him to start game one, I would say especially, and then, you have to give the job to somebody else if something happens. I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just throwing it out there that there's a lot of different moving pieces to who's going to be Tennessee's starting quarterback. Feels like it's probably still going to be Joey Aguilar. And Mark, he's taken a couple of steps back over the past couple of practices. So going back to the scrimmage, it didn't sound like he played very well. We already touched on that. And he didn't have the best day today. Sounds like he might have been the worst out of all these players. So as far as the numbers with the routes on air, while the media got to be out there, it's only like 5-10 minutes worth of practice. They have a lot more practice that comes after that. That's not what I'm talking about here whenever I say that GMAC has looked the best over the course of fall camp. That's more from, what we've heard. Several sources have told us that in like the actual team stuff, GMAC has been more of the guy. But Mark, he went 6 of 15, okay, 2 of 6 on his deep passes. Sounds like he was all over the place, overthrowing passes, underthrowing passes, just didn't look sharp out there. Again, back-to-back practices where he's really probably looks like the worst guy out there. And then Joey Aguilar, he went 16 of 18, which sounds like really good numbers. He was 3 of 6 on his deep passes. Sounds like there were 2 that he threw that was like underthrown that was caught, but in a game that probably would not have been caught. So keep that in mind and also take it all with a grain of salt. I look at multiple different outlets for these notes, y'all. And some outlets will say one thing and then the other one say something opposite. That's what I'm more so going with that just because I'm not there at practice. I have to trust what they're telling me or, what they're telling all of us and what I'm reading. But last, GMAC went 12 of 15 and he was 3 of 4 on his deep passes. So just like as a point of reference, one of the sites said that Joey Aguilar looked the best on the deep passes, but he was 3 of 6. GMAC went, he went 3 of 4. So I don't know. That was only one site that said that. The other ones didn't necessarily, say it that way. They pretty much all said that GMAC throws the prettiest deep ball, which watching his deep ball, passes to me, I think he throws a beautiful deep ball. Going all the way back to the orange and white game, he looked great with all the operational things, just very accurate, very nice touch. I think great timing, all of that, scans the field, reads it very well. So outside of that, I think that might be it. That's all the notes for Tennessee's quarterbacks. We'll kind of touch on some more things as we go through, and we'll talk about the wide receivers first because everybody wants to know how is the passing offense looking. So number one, Chris Brazzell, he's back out there. He did the routes on air, but he started at the top of the routes. It looked like he had a sleeve on his knee, which would tell me that whatever his surgery was probably on his knee. If you have any type of a lower body thing, you're going to be very careful getting in and out of breaks. So he's probably going to be working himself back into that gradually. And no real word on how did he look catching the football or none of that. So just not sure. Wouldn't be shocked if he was maybe a little bit rusty his first day back with so much time off, but he's going to have to step up for us. Obviously, he should be good to go by the start of the season. Mike Matthews, he had a dropped pass. It was the first pass of the throwing session. It was from Merck. It was on a hitch. Travis Smith, he dropped a slant. Ra dropped a pass from GMAC. So several drops again. Yeah, it's going to be normal that players drop passes, but as we're getting deeper into fall camp, y'all, we got to stop doing that. We've got to start to make more catches. But we all have to get on the same page. Like the passes have to be right, and these wide receivers have got to try to make catches. If the pass isn't perfect, help the quarterback out. We got to find out who's going to help us, who's going to be a dog, who wins 50-50 balls, and that really starts with the routes on air. So putting in work, I'm sure that these guys are working hard, but we just got to hone in on that focus because we might be hitting a little bit of a wall physically because it's been a kind of like a long fall camp for these guys. I'm sure they just had the scrimmage and then they had that day off, but then they're back out there. Still kind of fresh with the pads on, but hit a wall, but you have to be able to work through that. Like that's what's going to separate this team from, hey, how does the passing game look for, throughout the course of this year? But we need for those guys to step up for us. Now, tight ends, okay? One of the sites said pretty much that they were perfect, but then the other two that I like to look at, they were like, no, they had several drops. So take it, I guess, however you want to take it. But it sounds like Kit, All right, so Mouse Kittleman and Jack, they both had on yellow jerseys, which means that maybe they can get some contact, like thud, but not to the ground, full speed contact. So they're going to be fine by the start of the season. Sounds like it was a solid day from that whole room. Brain made some really nice catches. As far as the drops, though, Ethan Davis, Miles Kittleman, and Brain, they all had some drop passes from Merck. And Cole Harrison, he had a drop pass from Joey Aguilar. Actually, let me go back to the quarterbacks here for just a second and tell y'all this, that sounds like Joey Aguilar, he didn't miss any passes that were deep into the outside or in the seams, maybe outside of this one pass to Cole Harrison, which was on a seam, but it sounds like Cole ran the wrong route, and that also might be where his drop came from. So just trying to fill in all those blanks for you. Now, as far as Tennessee's offensive line, it was the same starting unit with the left and with the left tackle and left guard, and with the right tackle and the right guard. I saw one side said that Sam Pendleton was the starter at center. I saw the other one saying that they were rotating. Not quite sure who got to go out there first, if it's Sam Pendleton or William Satterwhite, but either way, it's probably going to be Sam Pendleton as the starter, I would think. Versus Syracuse is maybe trending that way just based off of what I've kind of read and heard and all of that. But we'll see. Really, outside of that center, I'm not too concerned about the rest of Tennessee's offensive line. I think it's going to be fun. And then Jeremiah's heard he had some backup reps at left tackle, and Bennett Warren had backup reps at right tackle. So Bennett Warren is still that swing guy. I also want to point out that I think that Jeremiah's heard looks really good. Just from what I saw with the clips, the offensive line looks very good. And, Gage Ginther, he's a guy, I haven't seen too much of him over fall camp, but he looks good too. So Tennessee does have some good depth with those guys, and we just have to keep on getting better every single day. And pretty much last thing here, y'all, is going to be with Tennessee's running back room. And it sounds like they worked on the mesh, which is just quarterback faking the handoff on like a read option sort of a thing. So they were working on that type of stuff, and they were working on pass pro. I saw some of it. I think that they look pretty good. It's very hard to tell if it's not full speed. But outside of that, I mean, it wasn't a whole lot of notes with Tennessee's linebackers or with our D line. Saw them out there doing some, this is the D line here. I think that they look great. They always look great. Saw the linebackers in like some special teams work mostly. I think that they look violent, so we're going to be perfectly fine. I'm not too much worried about anything with Tennessee's defense. We have to keep on building up depth, keep on stacking up days, and we should be fine. Now, with all that being said, y'all, let's talk about this AP poll, and let's talk some more about just Tennessee's team from top to bottom and how I feel about us at this point in fall camp. So this is the updated preseason AP polls. Tennessee sitting at number 24. I think that we're 10th in the SEC. How do I feel about it personally? I'm fine with it. Like preseason polls, it doesn't really bother me. I think that you got to look realistically at this situation. I know that folks felt very strongly about Nico leaving, and man, we're going to just upgrade a quarterback automatically. I don't know that. I mean, that's not the case. Of course, you have to work through it. We getting a quarterback on such short notice. We got a lot of young wide receivers. There's a whole lot of new players on this team. So for them to even have us in the top 25, I mean, I think that that's probably maybe a little bit generous. I mean, maybe that could be generous. Now, do I think that Tennessee's going to play better than this? I sure hope so. I don't think that we're like the 10th team in the SEC. There's probably some other teams that are ranked a little bit too high. Tennessee should be sitting at 24. Some of these other teams could maybe be bumped down. But with all that being said, y'all, I don't take it personally. This is just like the press. You know what I'm saying? They don't know as much about this team as what we know. But, we do have some more things that we will talk about here in just a second. But let me also show y'all this, man. Let me show y'all what the coaches poll has us looking like. So Tennessee's number 18 with the coaches poll. Again, I don't really even care. I'm not going to say that it's too high or that it's too low. If we weren't ranked in the top 25, that to me, that's just more reason that the guy should go out there and try to prove all the naysayers wrong. That's the way that I'm looking at it. Does not too much matter to me. But I will say that it feels like at this point, from more people starting to speak openly about the scrimmage and some of their worries about this team, just like publicly, right? I can say that does kind of feel like Tennessee will have that good defense, as we've touched on. Does feel like we're going to be more of like a run-first sort of a team, which we always are, but maybe even more so than we have been previously. We still have time for the passing game to get picked up, though. I think that it probably will. We have to see that over the course of this week. I think that Joey Aguilar's numbers and GMAC's numbers looked good from, our practice earlier today. But can we keep on doing that whenever it's real teamwork, whenever the media is not out there? Who's going to really take the reins for that quarterback competition? I feel like somebody needs to do it sooner rather than later. And honestly speaking, the simple fact that Coach Heupel hasn't up to this point, which he might do it at, maybe some point this week. I doubt it, but he still could. He hasn't named Joey Aguilar as the starter. when it feels like his main competition is more GMAC, who's a true freshman, and we already talked about it, doesn't look, maybe as sturdy as the other two players, and Merck is really taking that step back, being the player that's been here the longest in that room. You would think that that shouldn't be happening. I think that it might be a little bit of an issue that he hasn't just flat out been named that starter. Now, I would also like to see GMAC get some more first team reps. If I'm the coach, I would just base it off of how these guys actually playing. Like, you've got to earn your way up this depth chart, even all the way up until we name that final starter. So over these past couple of days, what we do know is that GMAC and Joey Aguilar have looked the best. They should get the most first team reps. It shouldn't too much matter. This is a real open competition. It really shouldn't too much matter. If who's older or any of that type of stuff, because see, that's not a real competition. And that's where I have some issues at. If it looks like GMAC is the best guy over the course of fall camp, how does the team, like how do the players feel about if Joey Aguilar is just named the starter and he maybe hasn't necessarily earned it? So I know that I'm saying a whole lot of things there, but the whole point is, yes, GMAC needs to be getting more first team reps, and we've got to get just more first team reps in general to whoever we feel like has the best opportunity to start. Now, I'm not giving up on Merck, because I think that Merck can still work himself, back up that depth chart better in this competition and all of that. He might have just had a couple of bad days. That is going to happen. You've got to give grace in those types of situations, but at the same time, if he continues to do that over the course of this week, I think that you've got to say, hey, find a way to maybe get him some first team reps, but we just got to get more to the guys that are showing up every single day, because at the end of the day, y'all, this is all about winning. At least that's what the goal should be. It should be about who gives us the best chance to go win ball games. And also, like we touched on earlier, it might not be the player that looks the best in practice. Maybe that's not what the coaches feel or think. I don't know how they would ultimately slice that up, but there's a whole lot of different ways that you could look at it. So those are my thoughts. Y'all please share yours down in that comment section, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be talking to y'all later on. Thanks, peace. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.